Well, hello friends. Welcome to this edition of Science Notes, where we're going to talk about what it takes to make some happy little clouds using the water cycle. For this, we're going to need a few key vocabulary words. We're going to need the following pieces in our notes and every time we talk about the water cycle. We first got thermal energy, then condensation, evaporation, precipitation, energy, density, and adding or taking away. And we're going to use all these fun little words to explain every step inside of the water cycle. All right, now that you're onto the first little set of boxes, we're going to title this one Evaporation, all the way over here on the left. We're probably going to need some fun colors. I'm planning to use a little bit of red and a little bit of black to help fill in these different sections on evaporation. So evaporation is when we've got some liquid water, maybe hanging out in a lake, just having a nice little day there, is going to change states into a gas or into steam or water vapor. So once I have that written down, since I know that I'm going to go from a liquid to a gas, I'm going to draw in my happy little sun here over the arrow. I'm maybe going to draw in some rays here to show some of that radiation having a fun little trip all the way down to Earth. And then here in this arrow, I can use one of my vocabulary words. I'm using red because I often think of this as when things start to heat up. And I'm going to put in add thermal energy. So I know that from start to finish, I know that my water is going to be having some of that thermal energy added to it. So I'm going to think about my water as just a bunch of happy little molecules hanging out with each other. So if I'm down by a lake, I'm going to take out my black marker now here. And I'm going to draw in all of my happy little water molecules hanging out as a liquid with all those little dots just taking on the shape of the container, spreading around and having a good time and whatnot. Then, as that sun's going to come through and add in that thermal energy, all of a sudden all those little molecules are going to get a lot more happier and want to bounce around. So I'm going to draw in all those particles all over the place as a gas now. Oh, now that I've got this liquid gas here, I should probably label these so I never have to worry about forgetting about them. I'm going to add in liquid down here. And then I'm going to put in gas, or a new word called vapor, for what it's turning into. So when I think about what some examples of this would be, my big thing is I'm going to think about like humidity. So maybe a hot little steamy day where you need a nice happy glass of lemonade. And steam. Those are going to be my two biggest examples of how evaporation is going on. Now, the fun thing here is that as I'm going from that liquid to gas, we talked about that word density before. So as it turns into this gas vapor, it is going to become less dense. And I think I'm even going to use some red here. I'm going to draw in some arrows pointing up. And I'm going to put in a happy little note here that says gas is less dense and rises through the air. So So why don't you make sure you've got all these fun little details on for evaporation, and once you've got that, we'll continue on to condensation and have ourselves a good old time. Now we're going to move on up to where all this happy little vapor, this gas has gone up, and this new part is going to be called condensation. Oh, if I look at the word condensation, I'm going to see the word dense as one of the root words right in the middle there. So now this gas is all up here in the sky. As it gets higher up, it's actually going to start cooling down. So I'm going to draw in with blue right here in this arrow, loses thermal energy. That way I know that as it gets there, it's going to start cooling down. So if I have all of my happy little molecules here, I know that they're going to start off here as a gas as they get up into this little cloud now. And since this is condensation, my gas is super low density. As it cools off, we should know from thermal energy that it's going to start becoming more dense, hence that condensation piece. So all of my dots over here, instead of being a gas, is going to start to cool down. All of those little happy molecules are going to join together so that they can form back into a liquid, or in some cases, will even form a solid. So it is going to go from its gas state to its liquid, even a solid state. In some situations, if the temperature is cold enough. So that means that now, off here on the side, I'm going to write back in blue again because we're talking about the temperature. The water is going to become more dense. And it's going to sink back on down here to precipitation. So if I'm following my arrows, I'm starting to complete the cycle. Let's just make sure we add in a quick little definition for condensation. When the water changes from gas to liquid. And in some cases it may be a solid, but this is going to be a very, very rare case. So I'm even just going to make a mark and put down super rare. All right, make sure you've got those pieces in, and then we'll follow our water as it becomes more dense back down to precipitation. All right, so now our water is starting to sink down to precipitation. Precipitation, if I were to define it or say what it is when the water becomes so dense / cool, it falls back to Earth. Now, does that just sound nice to do on a nice cool day, just to let gravity take you back down into our reservoir of water here again? So I might be thinking here, oh, I've got all these heavy water molecules. They're all going to start raining back down here. Or maybe I'll have some fun little snowflakes. Every now and then I might get a little chunk of hail, which is something you've probably heard of or know some of the recipe for. Maybe you'll get a little bit of sleep here. So let's maybe just come up with a happy little list of some of those examples here for your notes. See here, I've got some pleasant little rain, nice little drizzle, maybe some nasty little hail, maybe some fun little snowflakes, maybe some sleet, some graupel. And all those are just some fun examples as it falls back to Earth. Now, once it gets to Earth, it's probably going to drain off into a lake or a reservoir down here. Doesn't that just look fun and pleasant? And then it's going to keep going through the cycle where it'll finally join back up with evaporation to continue to condensation to precipitation and keep going through this cycle over and over again as long as we have that solar energy from the sun. If you missed any of these sections, make sure you go back and fill them in. Make sure you understand that as the thermal energy changes in each of these fun little sections, it's also going to cause that density to change, which is why we see the rising and sinking throughout this cycle. Make sure you talk to your teacher if you've got any fun little questions, and thanks for joining me today on this fun session.